You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. One of the things I wanted to do post-signing day was sort of assess the LSU roster, because where they are now still isn't technically the final roster for fall. And I get asked often, hey, Matt, how do you think LSU is going to do this fall? Like, what do you think their record's going to be? And I keep saying, I don't know what the roster is going to be. Let me see what the roster is first, and then I'll be able to give you a better idea. It's certainly closer now than it was a month ago or 6 weeks ago when Brian Kelly was hired at the beginning of December, or 8 weeks ago. But there's still potentially work to be done. So if you're scoring at home, the Tigers have 5 more spots to go. They went into signing day at 25, so they had 7 spots. So they had the availability to sign 32. They have the availability to sign 32. Well, they added 2 of the 6 that they were targeting on signing day. So they have 5 spots remaining. So they have 27. Remember, they got 12 transfers and 15 high school signees. So at 27, they could add as many as 5 more transfer players if they wanted to, if the opportunity is there and there's a player at a position of need. The other thing that I'll remind you is almost certainly LSU is going to lose more players to the transfer portal post-spring. We are going to see another round of transfers when you get into spring football and then through spring football, and guys see kind of where they are on the pecking order, depth chart, especially at a place like LSU where you have a new staff, and it'll be the first time that they're on the field with the new staff, the new full staff, to see how things transpire throughout spring. And after that, LSU is going to lose players. There are going to be this isn't just LSU, it's everywhere. There are always players that transfer out after spring. But likewise, LSU has 5 spots to add guys post-spring. And we've seen that quite a bit. If it was Joe Burrow, when they added him in 2018. We've seen LSU do that with Darren Evans at cornerback. There's always those opportunities. There's going to be those opportunities for LSU to add players post-spring. So I wanted to look at it position by position. We'll just run through this quickly, so I'll kind of give you a feel of what I think, where I think they are right now at each position. We'll run through this quickly. On offense, I would like them to take one more quarterback. You've got 3 scholarship quarterbacks. Each of the last 2 years, they've played 3 scholarship quarterbacks. I would like there to be one more. I don't know that it's realistic that you're going to be able to go get someone from a Power 5 that's a transfer, because someone's going to be looking for immediate playing time, and I don't think that exists at LSU. What's more is you could see a situation post-spring where if Miles Brennan is the leader and then Walker Howard's coming in, does Garrett Nussmeier stay? I don't know. But you always have to be willing and looking to add depth, the most important position on the field, because of exactly what we've seen the past couple of years. I think you're fine at running back. You got 5 scholarship running backs with Noah Cain. You got John Emery eligible. Both of the freshmen are back with Armani Goodwin and Corey Kiner. And remember, Trey Bradford is back as well. You might even lose one of those guys post-spring. I still think you're okay there. And you have Josh Williams. So technically you got 6 running backs. I think your numbers are good. I also think you're good at wide receiver. You would like to have double-digit wide receivers on scholarship. LSU doesn't. But when you have Keyshawn Butte, you have Jeray Jenkins coming back, and you look at all the rising sophomores that made such an impact last year, if it's Jack Besh or Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, Chris Hilton, and then you add Kyron Lacey, you have depth and talent at that position. Offensive line, I would love for them to add another starter if they could. You added Miles Frazier, Tre'Mond Shorts. You only got 1 returning starter in Cam Wire. You hope a lot of those guys who rotated along the offensive line, some of them elevate their play. Yes, Will Campbell will be coming in, as will Emory Jones, and if one of them is able to start as a freshman, fantastic. But if you could add a starter on the offensive line, a starting offensive lineman, that would be so key in this sort of transitional year. Where they are absolutely desperate is at tight end. LSU is desperate at tight end. All the respect in the world for Jack Mashburn as a walk-on, stepping up in the role he did last year. I'll say the same for Jack Besh, who is a receiver who tried to put his hand in the dirt and play tight end, but at 220 pounds, you can't play the traditional tight end role in the Southeastern Conference. Again, massive amounts of respect for Jack Best for trying to do that last year, but they need help at that position. Yes, you have Cole Taylor, but again, he's a pass catcher. You sign Mason Taylor out of Florida. That's Jason Taylor's son, another sort of pass-catching tight end. I'm not saying that you have to have the sixth offensive lineman like Les Miles used to use, but you need an SEC tight end. You got to address that, and hopefully there's an opportunity to do so post-spring. Defensively, I think you need depth at end. You got two guys who I think you feel really good about. You're thrilled to have Ali Gay back, and of course, B.J. Ojolari's a stud. Everybody else is a question mark. You have bodies there. You don't have production there. On the interior, with Mason Smith returning and Jaquelin Roy returning and Jacobian Guillory returning, and you should be getting Joe Evans back on the interior, and then you add a transfer from Missouri, your numbers on the defensive line are good. On the interior are really good, to where you're going to have a waves of players that can play on the interior. You should always have fresh legs. I like what you did at linebacker, and adding Harold Perkins is so key. But I would love it if you could add one more linebacker. And I'm definitely concerned about corner. They have addressed the secondary. You added Joe Fouché, you added Greg Brooks, you added Jark Bernard-Converse, you added Mekhi Gardner. I mean, they've added guys in that secondary. And Jark Bernard-Converse and Mekhi Gardner may be your starters. And you got a couple of guys back at corner, and you add LaTerrence Welch and Jordan Allen. But I don't know that you have the true number one lockdown dude on the outside. I don't know if that exists. I don't know if there's going to be an option to add that guy. But if there is, you need to, because you're vulnerable on the outside. It's the most obvious vulnerability in losing Ricks and McLaughlin and replacing them with Jark Bernard-Converse and Mekhi Gardner. You are objectively not as good at those positions on the outside. And in this league, you have to have dudes on the outside. So how they manage that, I don't know. Maybe it's a thing where you see guys elevate their play. Maybe Ray Darius Jones or Demarius McGee just blossom and have these amazing years, which would be awesome. And we've seen it from guys in the past. But as of right now, you got to see it. If you can add another guy there, you do. I think at punter, you're fine. You added the transfer from Notre Dame. Of course, you got Peyton Todd. You need help at place kicker. You got the kid you signed, and that's it. You lost both your kickers, in Cade York and Preston Stafford, who was the walk-on who transferred in and is now left again. So you need help at place kicker. You need options at place kicker if you can find one. And I think you're fine at long snapper as well. You added the long snapper from East Carolina. So all in all, if I'm looking at it, I think you're desperate at tight end. Would love to add a defensive end to add depth at that position. If you could add another linebacker, that would be fantastic. And if there's a starting cornerback out there, to add another body there would be key. And if there's a place kicker, if there's a Cole Tracy opportunity, you got to find it. That's kind of how they're looking. I think coming out of signing day, heading into spring, and it'll crystallize more when they make it through spring football and you see sort of the next wave of musical chairs with the transfer portal post-spring. But that's where LSU is, I think, coming out of the February signing day. Decidedly better than it was the day Brian Kelly was hired. That's a major hat tip to him and his staff and the job they did, pounding the pavement, adding the transfers, finishing off this recruiting class with the high school prospects they did, and giving themselves a chance to be really competitive in 2022. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.